Hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name is Jerry and I'm hailing you from the Antari shipyard. And today we're going to talk about the mission that came in These Are The Voyages, the faction pack that had the gold ships, the 10th anniversary for Attack Wing pack. It is called the Q Conflict. And I wanted to do a video specifically on the mission that came in this pack and then of course the Delta Quadrant campaign booklets. So I'm going to go over the rules. We're going to take a look at the rule sheet that came with it because I've seen a lot of questions about it, and I just want to go over it. And then I do have it actually loaded up in Tabletop Simulator as well. So we'll take a look at some of the rules kind of in action while we're there. So some background, if you're unfamiliar with where the source for this mission comes from, it is actually a comic book. A comic series called the Q Conflict, where the Q were at odds with other godlike beings that we've seen before in Trek, such as Aelborn from TOS, Q, the Metrons from TOS, Trelane from TMS. And they come together and they decide to stop fighting each other and causing all these supernovas, and instead to enlist crews from federations past to work and achieve these goals, and whichever's handpicked crew won was kind of who won the war. So this mission, it kind of highlights that and really does the comic book a little justice. There are some tweaks that you need to make to get it to be the full experience, but without further ado, let's get on over to the missions, or the rules. I'm going to leave my camera off for this one, just so that you guys can have a full view. So, the mission comes in a booklet form. It's not 4 cards, which is really nice, but I highly suggest that you open up the pamphlet when you read it, because it's kind of set up kind of funny, where it appears that the back is the front cover. This side here appears to be the front cover, but when you open it up, it looks like this. So this is the back and front covers of the pamphlet. We're going to zoom in up here at the top section. So this would typically be your card number 1 up here. So you got the Q conflict. Number of players is 2 to 4. So this mission is actually going to be the best with 4 players, I believe. You can do it with 2. And it's not going to be as it'll be pretty quick of a mission if you do it with 2. I think it's going to be best for 4. And this is kind of like one of those missions that really implies a multiplayer level type feeling, and I really enjoy that. And we will be doing this mission coming up on These Are The Voyages here soon. So special components, you got planet tokens, standard obstacles, challenge tokens, and continuum tokens. The components are based on challenges within the mission and the number of players. So challenge tokens and continuum tokens come in These Are The Voyages pack. Those are punchable. I got them up on the board. You can see them when we get over to TTS. So here's the mission flavoring. The players are united in a contest of unwilling champions as a dispute between the godlike beings Q, the Metrons, the Organians, and Trelane threatens the galaxy, and it will take all of Starfleet's best captains and legendary enterprise to stop them as you go head-to-head in a competition that will determine the fate of Earth and beyond. Okay, so moving down to the setup. Now, this is where I see a lot of people are getting kind of tripped up. You see over here on the side, it says all players, and then you've got a variant. Whoops. Let's get back to that. There we go. Okay. So, the top part here, this right here, is your standard mission play. This part down here is the variant. And I say that because it mentions later on in this sheet that you can play this mission with just this box, or this box is meant to be played with just this mission. Now, if you do that, you obviously don't get Voyager, you don't get the Sao Paulo or the Defiant. So, Staying inside of the box, you get to only use the Enterprise NX-01, the Enterprise, Enterprise A, Enterprise B, Enterprise D, and Enterprise E, which is fun, and that's how we're gonna play it. So that's the standard play. The variant play allows you to use the Sovereign Enterprise, the Constitution Enterprise, a non-Borg Voyager, and either the Defiant or the Sao Paulo as your four hero ships, which is more in line with the comic book itself. So I highly recommend playing with just the contents of what came in These Are the Voyages first, and then you can open up the pool. So each player alternates placing one planet obstacle or three standard obstacles in the play area anywhere not within range 1 of any board edge or within range 1 of another obstacle. Players set up in a different 4x4 area found in each corner of the play area. So each player gets a corner, so each corner of the map. Now, the planet obstacle, or the three standard obstacles is kind of interesting because if all four players choose to place planet obstacles, the board's going to get really tight. I don't know. I haven't tested to see if you could fit 4 planets. I doubt it. I think the most you really can fit is 2. And I would highly recommend, if you're going to play it, that you're going to want to place standard obstacles because you want to maximize the amount of Q Continuum tokens that are out there on the board. And again, we'll get to that in a later step. So each player is given a random Q Conflict faction card, which has a base stat modifier for that player's ship, a drafting ability, and an in-game ability. So that would be those tarot-sized cards that came in These Are the Voyages. That would be Aelborn, Q, Metron, Trelane, and then if you read their text that's on their cards, it states what those are. So it gives you a base stat modifier. It tells you who drafts what upgrades first, or ship captain upgrades first, and it tells you, it gives you an ability that can be done once per game. Alright, so moving over here. So a player wins if at the end of the game round a player has at least any 2 challenge tokens, then that player wins. If the players are tied, the player with the most continuum tokens win. If players are still tied, then player with the most ship challenge tokens wins. So there are tiers to how this works. Let me see if I can get that better on screen. There we go. So there are tiers to how this works and how everything is kind of scored. So there are 2 challenge tokens. I believe the pack came with 12 Q Continuum tokens, but on the back side of 2 of those Q Continuum tokens are the 2 challenge tokens. Now, the challenge tokens are an Omega molecule and the Iconian Gateway, which, if I remember the comic right, it's been quite a while since I read it. Those were kind of the challenges in that as well. The crews had to find those and secure them. So those are the 2 things that you secure. Now, why is this tiered? Because one player is not guaranteed to find both of those challenge tokens. So if one player finds both of those challenge tokens, the game is immediately over. Right? That's the win condition. So it's more likely, especially when you're playing a 4-player game, that one player will find one challenge token and a second player will find the other challenge token. So at that point, you guys are tied each 1-1. So the next tiebreaker is going to be the Continuum tokens, which you earn while you're looking for the challenge tokens. And then, of course, if you guys are tied on Continuum tokens, so say you've got one challenge token each, and then both of you had to scan 4 things or flip 4 tokens, so you have 1 challenge token and 3 Continuum tokens for each player. So you're still tied. Well, okay, then it's the player that destroyed the most ship challenge tokens, which, again, those are the tarot-sized cards. There are 3 more of them. That is your Queen's Octahedron, the Planet Killer, and the Crystalline Entity, which we will talk about in full too. If nobody scored any or destroyed any of those to score those ship challenge tokens, at that point it comes down to a roll-off. Okay, so here is one of the coolest new mechanics in the game that I have seen get introduced in this. Very, very much under the radar. Um, I can't wait to see if this is going to get kind of co-opted into something else. But again, it's also very, very much in tune and in flavoring with the comic book that this is based on. So each player will draft various cards to assemble their 50 SP ship, going in clockwise order while using the following rules. Ships are drafted first. The player with whose Q conflict card has the draft ships first ability, which is Airborne, will get to draft your ship first. So you've got first pick as to what enterprise in this pack you want to use, or what ship from the draft pool that you created you want to use. Next is captains, which is Q himself. Q drafts captains first, so the player with Airborne might get to choose the ship that they want, but they may not get the captain that they want. Q may be able to come in and sneak and steal that captain. So third is the crew. So crew upgrades are drafted third, and then you continue drafting until each player has about 5 to 7 crew. Now, I know that you don't have that many slots on your ship. That's okay. What you want to do is draft the crew, and then you build your ship. You use up your slots from there. So you have the crew. So if you're trying to do some kind of synergy and you've got people you want to target specifically, you can try and pull them in, or maybe you have to make a quick adjustment. Those type of things. So it's really nice that you can do that. And then lastly, the person who drafts crew first is Trelane. So Trelane drafts crew first, and then after that is all other upgrades until they're gone. So that would be the Metrons. So that would be your tech, weapon. You could do starship construction cards, I think, are in there. All sorts of things. And again, right here it mentions that these should be coming from These Are The Voyages faction pack. You do have the variant play, which will allow you to create your own customizable draft pool, which we may do on These Are The Voyages in the near future. The one that is coming out here soon will be just out of the box. Okay, so that is all of the front page. So let's go take a look at some of the rules here. Okay, so here is kind of explaining what's going on around the board. So remember that players are going to place obstacles or planets. So up here in the top corner, we got do be a fair sport. The fair sport player is the player that has earned the fewest challenge tokens. If players are tied, then the player that earns with the fewest continuum tokens is the fair sport player. If players are still tied, then the player closest to getting the initiative token is the fair sport player. The fair sport player decides how the ship challenge token moves during the activation phase. So remember that for later. That's going to come back. It's not something we need to be worried about right this second. So perhaps a simple game of capture the flag. So this is kind of the main crux of the mission. So you want to mix the Iconian Gateway Challenge token and the Omega Molecule Challenge token with a number of Continuum tokens that you have enough for each obstacle in play. So if you've got 4 players and you all place obstacle tokens, then you're placing 12 Continuum tokens in play. If that makes sense. So you place a random Continuum token with the Q side face up on each obstacle in play. Any ship within range 1 of an obstacle that has a Continuum token on it may, as an action, flip that token to its other side and then place it on its ship's card. So that's how you earn those Continuum tokens. Now, if you flip the token, because 10 of them are double-sided with the Q, so if you flip it and it's Q, you still take that because that may end up deciding the game later. But if you flip it and you reveal the Iconian or the Omega Molecule, then you take that and you've got yourself a challenge token. So you've got tier 1 points and then you also, if you didn't find it and you got the Q one, you've got tier 2 points, right? So, after the first challenge coin is found, then we move over here. And it says Trelane enjoys adding a bit of danger when the game gets dull. After the first player has found either of the challenge tokens, so either the Iconian Gateway or the Omega Molecule, at the start of the next planning phase, the fair sport player, so the player that doesn't have any Continuum tokens, or the least amount of Continuum tokens, chooses a ship challenge token to place in the play area within range 1 of an obstacle. So any obstacle. It doesn't matter whether it is a planet or just an obstacle token. After a ship challenge token is defeated, the player that defeated it scores the token, and then the fair sport player places a new ship challenge token in play. So keep in mind that the fair sport player is also always going to change. So say that you have 2 Continuum tokens. You did the action on 2 of them, you flipped them, and you've got 2. I've only done it once, so I'm the fair sport player. And then say the next turn that I do another one, then we're tied. And then say the next turn that I do another one and you don't, and I have 3 and you have 2. Now you're the fair sport player. And that's an actual token that gets passed around to identify the fair sport player. So you should only ever have 1 ship challenge token in play. And again, those ship challenge tokens are the Crystalline Entity, the Planet Killer, and the Queen's Octahedron. Now, you did get a token in These Are The Voyages that is about the size of the ship base, that is double-sided with the Queen's Octahedron and the Crystalline Entity on it. The tarot cards have all the stats for them on it. And then we got an actual Doomsday Planet Killer Machine token, which was used in the Doomsday Machine OP. This one is a little bit nice than the one that came in the OP. The OP was about paper thin. This is a nice actual thick cardboard, so it can withstand being played with multiple times. So, mortals and their mewling protests. When a ship is destroyed, the player who destroyed it gains a Continuum token. Planning phase. Each player may return their destroyed ship to the play area with all the cards that were discarded from them equipped to them, in their starting area within range 1 of an obstacle. In their starting area, or within range 1 of an obstacle. All disabled and time tokens on cards equipped to that ship are removed. So no ship is truly destroyed in this game. You get to come back, and you get to bring all of your cards that you used back. Whether it was discarded, has a disabled token, or a time token on it. You get to bring it back to full health. Now, the player who destroyed your ship gets a Continuum token. So there are other ways to earn a Continuum token, right? So that's an interesting thing. So it doesn't just make it like, oh, I don't have to fight this guy, or I can, it doesn't mean that the players have to ignore each other the whole game. There is a little bit of strategy involved, so you can kind of attack somebody that maybe is getting too far ahead, and you need a reprieve or something, or maybe somebody was just a target of opportunity. So you can definitely do that. Okay. Now down here is just describing the cards that came with it. So as I said, you've got Q, who adds +1 to your hull value. Drafts captains first, and then in the planning phase, once per game, target 2 ships in play. Switch the positions between the target ships in the play area. The controlling player may choose their ships facing. So if you and I switch places, I get to choose my facing, and you get to choose your facing. In the new area, of course. Trelane. He adds +1 to the primary weapon value. He drafts crew upgrades. First, planning phase, once per game. Target an opposing ship in play. The target ship skips the activation phase this game round. So you don't move. You don't have to get to do actions, nothing. Then you got Aelborn. +1 to the agility value. He drafts ships first. And then in the combat phase, once per game, target an opposing ship in play. The target ship cannot perform any attacks this game round. So I don't know. Say you've got somebody who's kind of limping along, that is in the firing arc of the Doomsday Machine, and you might be able to airborne them to make it so that they can't attack the Doomsday Machine, and they get attacked instead. Metron, +1 in your shield value. Drafts other cards first. Planning phase. Once per game, target 2 ships in play. Continuous effect. The target ships must attack each other until one of those ships has been destroyed. So you make it so that those 2 ships have to fight, kind of like in Arena, where Metron made the Captain Kirk and the Gorn fight. Ship challenge tokens. The fair sport player is the one that picks the direction and maneuver for these tokens while in play. All ship challenge token maneuvers are white maneuvers. Ship tokens cannot be dealt face-up damage. So the fair sport player not only picks what token gets put on the board, but they also get to pick the heading and direction of those ships, which the tarot cards tell you exactly what moves they can make. Along with over here. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading this out because we're actually going to look at the cards itself. So let's get on over to the board real quick. So here we are. So you can see I've got everything set up for a 4-player game. You've got the starting edges, 4x4 squares in each quarter. So now, excuse me, let's take a look at the cue cards. So these are the tarot cards for the cues. You can see you've got Q, Aelborn, Metron, Trelane. I added these little reminders up here at the top because the text is all kind of squished together, which I get why they did. I'm trying to make these fit. I wish it was a little bit better, but just to kind of help the players determine what they have quickly. So the way this works is these cards get flipped face down, and you can see the reminders go away, so you can't tell who these are. And then you add them into a stack and you shuffle them, right? So you shuffle the tarot cards and then you hand them out. So we'll say this is player 1, player 2, well, player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4. So player 1 has Q. So he will be drafting captains first. Player 2 has Aelborn, who's going to be drafting ships first. Player 3 has Trelane, who does crew. And player 4 has Metron, who does all other cards. So in order to draft, I've got all the cards here from These Are The Voyages kind of pulled out and bundled together. I've got only the Enterprises here. So Aelborn drafts ships first. So this player, we'll say he wants to draft, we'll just say he drafts the Enterprise A. Okay, so he takes the Enterprise A, and then I've got a snap point on these cards, so it'll always do this, and that's kind of how you set that up. So after that, it'll be the player to your left, so you go clockwise. So in this case, if we're going clockwise, Trelane's going to draft, and then Metron, and then Q. So we'll just say that these 3 cards here are selected. Right, we'll say Trelane picks Enterprise B, Metron goes here, Q chooses his favorite ship, the D. Alright, now Q gets to draft captains first. So you get 15 captains to choose from in this pack, and it's all of them. So we'll say that Q picks his favorite Capitan, Jean-Luc Picard. So just kind of put it in a pile down here. Now, Aelborn gets to pick his captain because he's the next in line. he'll go with a captain he's familiar with, which is Kirk. Now Trelane gets to pick, and let's say Trelane picks Mr. Spock. Seems fair. And then Metron gets to pick, so we will do a John Harriman. Why not? So all the captains have been drafted. So now we know that Trelane gets to draft crew first. So crew is next. Crew is the third round. If we got the crew here, they're... Whoops. Well, now I just spread them out. There's 48 of them. Let me quickly try and fix that. Not exactly what I was trying to do. But that is A-okay. We can work with it. I think there is... Yeah, there was other cards here. Okay. I apologize. I hit the wrong button. So we don't want navigational deflector. We can put that back. Let's see if I can... There we go. Group these all back together. There we are. 48 cards. Okay. So let's hit search this time. Alright, so Trelane gets to pick crew first. So let's just do this randomly. I'm not gonna try and create a fleet here. So randomly. So this is how it would go. So Trelane would draft, then Metron, then Q, kind of in order like that, until you've got 5 or 7 crew. And really that number can be decided on with your group. You can be like, hey, I only want... We should only draft 5. And that's completely fine. So there's 4... 5... For this example, we'll just do 6. Oh, Tasha just fell through the table. That's great. There we go. So 6 crew cards for each, and then now from here you draft everything else. Draft everything else until you guys are considered done. Now, obviously, you don't get to use all these crew. You get to use what's on your ship in the slots. So for the Enterprise E, for example, you can only pick 2 out of the crew that you chose. So let's just say we'll do Lozier and it makes sense to do Sato here. So everybody else you can kind of put away. Of course, if you have 2 lower decks, that's a way to get around that. You can fill 2 lower decks in 1 crew slot. In this case, there is not 2. Alright. Now, so that's kind of how that's done. So let's take a look at some of the stuff here. These are the Q tokens I was talking about. And there's the Fair Sport token. So these Q tokens are double-sided. So when you approach an obstacle, it should have a Q token on it. And then when you go here, in Tabletop Simulator, you can click F to flip it, or you can right-click. I put some code in there to flip it, and you can see there's nothing there. So once you take this and you can see, oh, yep, that's a Q. That's a Q token for sure. You take this and you put it on your ship card. Now, if it were one of these, and you hit flip token, boom, there's the Iconian Gateway. We found it. So this goes here, and this obviously means more than this in points. Here's the Fair Sport token that gets passed around, so you know who the Fair Sport is. And then here are the tokens. Again, these two tokens are actually double-sided in the pack. They don't come with the north, east, south, or west on them. That was something I had to do for Tabletop Simulator so that people knew what area to choose or how to move them. So for example, say I wanted to move the Borg Octahedron a forward 2, or to the north 2, that I'd have to do that. Same thing with south. Same thing with the Planet Killer. It's got its own moves, so it will do its own thing. And it's got a firing arc, which, ooh, okay. That's not right. I'll have to take a look at that. So here are the tarot cards for each of those ship challenge tokens. You'll notice that I put shields and hull counters on them. Per their stats, that's what they have. They do things in the end phase. It's got all their maneuvers on it. It's got their primary firing arcs. And it's got special rules for them too. Like when the Octahedron defends, each time the ship is hit, you get to place a mission token on it, and the Queen Octahedron gets to roll that many agility. So, cool stuff. You know, if you drop this down, since the Queen's Octahedron shields have been destroyed, of course, same thing here. The Queen's Octahedron has been destroyed. So, at that point, you can take this off the board and put it with your ship. So, that is really the Q continuum in a nutshell, or the Q conflict itself. Whoops. So, hopefully you guys give this a try. I say this would be great if you were trying to get people into Attack Wing at your local store, and you wanted to just leave it to what's in the box. You can use These Are The Voyages and kind of just draft out of that box, kind of like how we are. Or you can make an event out of it and do custom draft pools where you have the Voyager crew, the DS9 crew, the Enterprise E crew, the TOS crew, and you can even throw in the other Enterprises too if you wanted to, and throw their crew in. You can, you know, up this in player too. 2 to 4 is what's recommended, but you could do even more than that if you really wanted to. So that's something that could be explored. But I hope you guys get out, give this a try. I know it looks daunting at the beginning, and I hope I got most of this stuff right. That's how we're going to play it for These Are The Voyages, and we've got 4 people lined up for that. So it's going to be a good time. But yeah, again, let me know down in the comment section below if you're going to give it a try, or if you've already tried it. Let me know how it went. Did I mess something up? Did I miss something? Let me know about that too. Everything in Tabletop Simulator will be available soon, so that you can run this, so you can run the mission. That'll be coming in the near future. And of course, follow us on the Discord server for Fremont Reformation, probably the largest Discord server out there for Attack Wing. We talk Attack Wing all day long, and we are getting into some rule discussion with all these new cards coming out, so you don't want to miss that at all. But thank you all for watching and all the support you have given me through these past couple months. And until next time, we'll see you around the shipyard.